The Islamophobia lie that ended in beheading. Teen admits to full fabrication. Okay, so I'm going to give a background on the event and then take us into the present day with the courtroom for people who are unaware of what happened. The shocking 2020 murder of French schoolteacher Samuel Paty is back in the spotlight as new revelations emerge during an ongoing trial in Paris. The tragedy began with a devastating lie. A 13-year-old student falsely claimed that Paty, during a lesson on freedom of expression, singled out Muslim students and forced them to view caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. In reality, Paty had warned all students in advance, giving them the option to opt out if they found the material offensive. The girl, who was not even present in class, fabricated the story to avoid trouble at home after being reprimanded by her parents. Her father, Brahim Chnina, launched an online campaign accusing the teacher Paty of Islamophobia, and he was joined by Islamist activist Abdelhakim Sefrioui. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. The action fueled a wave of outrage that accumulated in Abdoullakh Anzorov, an 18-year-old Chechen extremist, tracking Paty down and brutally beheading him in a Paris suburb. The murder horrified France, sparking national debates on free speech and extremism. Now, as the trial it unfolds, the girl, now 17, tearfully admitted the lie, apologizing to Paty's family, saying, "I'm sorry for destroying your life." The trial has also revealed the role of a broader radical network, with 8 individuals accused of fostering the hatred that led to this horrific act, including accomplices who helped Anzorov acquire weapons. So, let me provide a little bit more background here. So, Samuel Paty was brutally murdered in October of 2020, and his killer traveled I think like 60 kilometers or something. He traveled a long ways to come track down Paty. And then he brutally attacked him, stabbing him, decapitating his head from his body, and then posting images of it to social media, to Twitter. I will never get those images out of my mind. And threatening Emmanuel Macron, basically saying, like, this is what happens to infidel dogs like you, blah, blah, blah. And so then the attacker, Anzorov, was killed in a shootout with the police. Anzorov had been a Chechen refugee in France who had lived in France since he was 6 years old. And he committed this act when he was 18, at which point his body was shipped to be buried in Chechnya, and his funeral was attended and celebrated by hundreds. So what happened was that there was a trial, and all of the children that were involved in what happened to Samuel Paty, because there were a number of minors that were involved in what happened, including the girl that lied, and I'll get more into that later, as well as two children that went to that school, who identified Paty to the killer. They all had a trial a few years ago, maybe a year and a half ago ish, if I had to judge, and we covered that trial. Well, now there's a second trial that's happening. And this second trial is to prosecute all of the adults that were involved in what happened to Paty, including the father of this girl, including people that provided weapons to the killer, including people that were involved in social media campaigns to incite this campaign against Paty, including an Islamist activist, and one woman. And I'll get into the profile of who some of these people are. So it's 8 adults, 7 men and 1 woman are now part of this trial for the adults. And so this this new kind of news happened in the context of this new trial, which will continue until the end of December, I believe. And this is really, really important because now more information about what happened is coming out in the trial, which I am really thankful for because there's always a little bit of a barrier because of the language difference, right? And the more details that come out about this story and what happened to Samuel Paty are so blood boiling. It it's actually hard to comprehend. So basically, this girl was getting in trouble. This girl, she was 13 years old, was getting in trouble at school. She was getting like suspended and she wasn't attending class. And so she was getting in trouble for that. And when she was going home and her parents were like reprimanding her for how she's getting in trouble at school, she told this lie. And she was like, "Oh, well, this is only because our teacher is forcing us to look at Prophet Muhammad cartoons and like kicking us out of class and basically like discriminating against us because we're Muslim." And she continued this lie for a long time. For I think um over a week because only took the span of a little more than a week from when she first lied to when he was killed. And so here's some details. The So basically he was doing a civics lesson about, what's important as a member of the French Republic, what republican values are to the French, and one of them is secularism, laicite, preservation of free speech, etc. These are very central values. And so he was giving a lesson on this. And so she goes home one day, 2 days after he originally gave this lesson, where he did not kick Muslim students out of the classroom or anything. He just merely said, "If you are not comfortable with this, you're free to turn away. Or if you would like, you can even like leave the classroom or whatever." He was very flexible on that, right? So 2 days later, as she was being scolded by her mother for being temporarily suspended, the girl retorted that Paty had forced students to view the Charlie Hebdo cartoons and had excluded her when she complained. In reality, she had never even attended the class in which the students were shown the caricatures, and no Muslim students had ever been ordered out of the classroom. Quote, "In the grip of panic and stress, I told my mother that we had seen the cartoons and that I did not agree and that I had been excluded. I did not want to disappoint my parents by telling them I was doing a lot of stupid things," she told a Parisian court in the hearing. Less than 2 weeks later, Paty was lying dead in the street with his head hacked from his shoulders. Um, it starts off with her just lying to her parents, and then her dad seizes on this. The schoolgirl's falsehood was seized by her father, Brahim Chnina, who is now on trial with 7 other adults. He stands accused of launching an online harassment campaign against Paty and is facing charges of association with a terrorist organization. That evening, Chnina began posting about Paty's alleged conduct and called for action against him. So the same evening, she first tells that lie. In the first clip, he shared on social media, and he's saying to the camera while he's masked, "I decided to make this video following the fact that my daughter was shocked by her teacher's behavior. I don't like to use the term teacher. He is a thug of history." He went on to recount the fabricated tale that he forced Muslim students out of his classroom and that his daughter refused to go and was shown a picture of the Prophet Muhammad naked. "What is this hatred?" he declared. The post attracted the attention of Abdelhakim Sefrioui, an Islamist preacher who had partnered with Chnina, the father, and asked to film his daughter repeating her claims. Quote, "He asked if he could film me. I didn't think that he was mean, so I accepted. I repeated my lie," the girl reportedly told the court. They also pushed the 13-year-old to file a police complaint against the teacher, and she did so, repeating the lie for a third time. As a result, Paty was called to the police station, telling officers he was confused as to why a student had made an allegation against him, given that she wasn't even in his classroom on that day. Meanwhile, the father and this Islamist preacher continued to spread the allegations about Paty's supposed Islamophobia with the aim, according to the prosecution, of designating a target, provoking feelings of hatred, and thus preparing several crimes. Within 2 days of the campaign of the harassment, the father came into contact with the killer, with the pair calling one another 9 times, the police investigation has shown. Um, a little more than a week after the father began spreading his daughter's lie, the killer traveled from his home to prepare for the bloody assault. He traveled like over 80 miles or something. Some of his friends helped him acquire weapons and so forth. And then the murder happened, and then this girl was still repeating the lie. She was repeating the lie for up to 30 hours after Paty was murdered, and only admitted that she had lied and was lying after 2 interrogations. So, yeah, the schoolgirl whose fabricated tale started the entire saga told the court in Paris yesterday she had learned of her teacher's death while watching the news that evening. She was later sent a picture of Paty's lifeless and headless body. I collapsed in my sister's arms. I collapsed in my mother's arms. I called my father. I felt his trembling voice, she said. The next day, I learned on television that my father was in police custody. Even after Paty's murder, the girl doubled down on her story. It was only after 30 hours in police custody and 2 separate bouts of questioning that she finally confessed the truth. My teacher had been decapitated. My father was in police custody, and I couldn't say it was false, she admitted. So, this whole incident has had massive, massive shockwaves throughout France. So, this girl and a few of the other minors that were involved in this murder um already had their trial and they were sentenced, and most of them um received 18-month suspended sentences for their involvement. There was only one of these minors who there had the harshest punishment, which was basically to be monitored for a specific period of time, which is crazy. Um so now, however, the adults are facing much, much harsher um penalties.
So,
And I'll get
so
into that in a second.
the punishment that you mentioned are for the kids.
Mhm.
Okay. What is the 13-year-old girl? What is she getting?
She During her trial, she was sentenced to, I believe, an 18-month suspended sentence.
What does that mean? Like, what's going to
I
happen
believe
to
that
her?
means she just walks.
Oh, okay. So, what do you think is like? Some people are saying she's a child, so that's fair, given that she's a child. What do you think? Like Jean, for
Oh my
example,
god,
Jean
I
was
mean,
saying, "I don't."
you can go see how I felt when that sentence came down when we covered that trial. I was like, "This is an absolute robbery of justice. Are you freaking kidding me?" They just
So
walk?
Jean is saying, "I don't know how to feel about the girl at 13. I don't think she could understand what would happen." What do you think about what Jean is saying?
I Look, I don't know. I don't know what the standards are in France. I know what some of the standards are in the United States. And depending on the situation, someone that's age could get 100% tried as an adult. Um like, I think that the consequences of this murder are so far reaching within French society that you have to make a strong example of what happened, especially considering everything that goes on in France nowadays. Are you kidding me?
Mhm. So, yeah, I think like people think about what's fair, but I usually think the liberal way to think about these things is not justice or fairness. I think that what you should think about are consequences rather than, I'm a consequentialist, and as a consequentialist, I think like the words fairness and justice are things that we should not be focusing on. We should be focusing on what actions will have the best consequences, will result in the highest amount of deterrence, you know, deterrence without being too costly at that moment, like basically doing a cost benefit analysis. And given how the direction that France is going, I know she's 13, but this is not about her. This is about sending a message, sending a signal for not tolerating shit like this. So to me, I don't care about whether this is fair to her or not. What I care about is if I was the judge, I would think about the rest of France, and I need to send a message of lack of tolerance for this shit. So I would make an example of her regardless of what I feel about her. I don't give a shit about her. I'm thinking about France if I was the judge. So I would make it as harsh as possible to send a signal, to send a message that we're not going to be like, oh, she's a child, oh, she didn't know what they're doing. When it comes to shit
No,
like this,
fuck
we don't
that.
fuck around. We don't
No,
fuck
not
around.
at
Yeah,
all.
that's what I would do.
No.
Yeah.
For this kind of thing, you need extremely strong deterrence. Extremely strong
Right.
deterrence. What kind of precedent does it send if there are segments of society that know that they can lie on their teachers, f- have their lives threatened by freaking radicals in the nation, and basically walk on a suspended sentence? And because they're minors. I don't know if people know the extent to which there will be adults in children's life that will exploit the status of them being a minor because they know that they will be hit with less. We see this a lot within drug trafficking, for example, because they know that the child is going to be tried with less, so they just make the children the mules or whatever so that it's easier to continue. I know that that's not, obviously like a completely analogous situation, but just as a case in point of some of the issues with minors in the justice system. It's I don't know. So, wait, I want to get some information on what kind of sentencing the adults are facing.
Yeah,
Because
Dee was saying her father should be jailed.
oh, well, easily,
While you look
obviously.
for that, can yes,
Go
I'm
ahead.
just gonna answer Weaker's question. Weaker is saying, I don't know what drives these people to do such things. Well, I give you a guess. Do you guys want to guess? The people in the chat? Like, I think Weaker herself or himself kind of knows what guys. What do you think drives people to do such things? It starts with an I. It ends with an M.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. People. Yeah. Okay. Good. People. Islam. The
No, but
Quran.
it's
Yeah.
more
It's
than
not.
that, Armin.
It's
It's more than that. And this will be a theme that comes up in a story we cover later today, which is purposefully weaponizing your status as a so-called minority within a society to be able to capture power. That's what it is.
yes. Yeah. But all the other elements. So first of all, here's how it works. Okay. The short answer is Islam. The long answer is everything in society is multifactorial. It cannot be reduced to one factor. But every other factor that you want to name, I know they did have some um, effect into making stuff like this happen. But everything else that you name other than Islam are present in other places as well. I'm not denying that they didn't have an effect. I'm just saying that you don't see behavior like this most of the time in other places where all these other elements that you could point to, all these other factors that you could put your finger on, exist in other places, and you don't see people being beheaded in the same number that you see people being treated like this when you have Islam. So I'm not denying that it's multifactorial. I'm just saying the Islam factor is basically what pushes it to making this stuff happen more than any other factor. Because anything else that you name, I'll show you that they exist in other places, and you don't see behavior like this. No, at least not to this level. So the main factor is Islam.
That's fair. With other identity groups, if you are accused of some sort of bias or bigotry against them, I don't know, maybe you get chased out of your job,
Right.
unfairly terminated. And that does happen, and that's horrible to a lot of people. But no, I mean, this dude was literally beheaded in the street. His head posted to Twitter saying this is what happens to infidel dogs. Yeah, I mean, it's different. Let's not kid ourselves. Um
Yeah.
so the girl herself was sentenced to 18 months of probation last December. 18 months of probation. She was convicted of slander. The other teenagers were also faced with suspended sentences. One of them had to be committed to a certain amount of months of electronic monitoring. Um, I'm having a hard time figuring out what the sentences of the adults are facing, but my memory is telling me from reading all this stuff yesterday that I think the father and maybe that Islamist preacher are facing like 30 years. Um, but don't quote me on that because now I'm having a hard time tracking it down. Um, One thing I would like to do if we have a little bit of time. Yeah, we have a little bit of time. Is to go through the profile of some of the 8 defendants of the adults because this is brand new information that we're getting now that because this case of what happened to Samuel Paty is like very important to me. And so every time there's new information because of these trials, I I really want to cover that thoroughly. So there are 8 defendants aged 22 to 65 and they will be appearing in the special court over the next several weeks and the trial is projected to end around December 19th. So we'll be hearing about this again soon. Um the Okay, so the others who will appear for terrorist criminal association risk a maximum of 30 years for criminal imprisonment. Of criminal imprisonment. So there are some of these that will be facing 30 years. So, okay, first defendant, Naeem Bouadoud, Boudadou, Ba- Boudaoud, is a 22-year-old Frenchman is being prosecuted of complicity in terrorist murder, described by the prosecution as vulnerable, impressionable, and without any visible signs of violent radicalization. He provided various services to his friends, such as the killer and another person that assisted the killer. The day before the attack, he took the jihadist to a cutlery store to buy a knife similar to the one found on the scene. The day of the attack, he accompanied the killer to a store to buy airsoft guns and steel pellets. Azam Ep- Epsirkhanov. This 23-year-old Russian of Chechen origin who arrived in France in 2010 is the second person accused of complicity in the terrorist murder. According to the prosecution, he helped actively and accompanied the killer, his friend since middle school, in a search and the purchase of weapons. Um, and he also was going to help the killer obtain a handgun, but failed to do so. Then the father, Brahim Chnina. Chnina. Aged 52 and of Algerian nationality, he's the father of the schoolgirl at the origin of the controversy. Co-founder of the association Aide Moi to accompany people with a reduced mobility to their pilgrimage to Mecca, Brahim Chnina was accused of having orchestrated a cyberbullying campaign against the teacher. He targeted him in videos indicating his name and the name of the school. The father also had 9 telephone messages with the terrorist. That's crazy. That's new information that I have never heard before. And I don't know. I really want to know more about how well they were connected to this freaking jihadi. Um in detention since the murder. So he's been in jail since 2020. He presents himself as a victim, rejecting any responsibility for the facts for which he is accused. Abdelhakim Sefrioui, the 65-year-old Franco-Moroccan, is an Islamist activist and founder of the pro-Hamas collective Sheikh Yassin, dissolved in October of 2020. Abdulhakim is accused of having participated in the development and dissemination of videos presenting false and distorted information intended to arouse a feeling of hatred against the teacher. He risks 30 years in prison. Basically, they're saying that he's being persecuted unjustly. This one is interesting. Priscilla Mangel. She is the only woman among the accused. She converted to Islam at the age of 16. She's now 36, known for belonging to the radical Islamist movement. The prosecution accuses her of having discreetly exchanged on Twitter with the killer, presenting Samuel Paty's course as the illustration waged of the war by, sorry, this is like translated from French, the illustration of the war waged by the Republican institutions against the Muslims. These messages allegedly reinforced the assailant in his plan. Next is Yusuf Sinar. The 22-year-old Turkish national is accused of having shared with the killer in a Snapchat group dedicated to jihadist propaganda. So this group broadcasted after the attack. The killer's message claiming responsibility was sent to this group chat. And this Turkish dude dropped out of school and has been living off of drug trafficking since then, since he was 14 in France. Ismail Gamanev, age 22, this Russian of Chechen origin, entered France illegally in 2013 and had refugee status since 2020. The prosecution accuses him of having actively participated in this Snapchat group with the killer, where messages with jihadist content were exchanged. In particular, he allegedly reinforced the killer in his assassination plan. When the images of the attack were broadcast in this Snapchat group, he reacted to the images with smiley emojis. And finally, there is Lukman Ingar. He is accused of having administered and actively participated in the Snapchat group with the jihadist content. According to the prosecution, this 22-year-old man was accused of considering to leave France and to go to Afghanistan or Syria to join a terrorist organization. So, yeah, the damn saying, does France just let anyone in? Yeah, that's kind of a pattern I've noticed going through the list of those people standing trial, unfortunately.
Yeah, how did these people get in France? This is so like, what the fuck are you guys doing there? Like, how are you? Just like, is it just opening the doors? Like, do you even check? I don't understand.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wanted to really go into the details of this case. I think it's really important. Yeah, D is saying something important. All these terrorist social media groups, while the UK hurdy words take you to prison. Amazing. Yeah. Basically. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna apologize for the fact that I hope they freaking throw the book at these people. Put them under the jail for all I care. This is a situation where the strongest deterrent possible is 100% justified. In fact, I think it is morally required.
Yeah, completely agree. By the way, Carl apologized to you in a super chat for calling
Oh,
you. Yes. Do you want to read that?
Carl Schler. Thank you for the super chat. Sorry for calling you woke, Susanna. Personal feelings of indignation are no argument to tell other people what to do. That's what I meant. Carl, that's literally what I was communicating to other people, though.
Yeah, she was saying to other
That's literally
people
what I
not to
was
do
telling
that.
other people.
That was what the position that you're holding was the position that Susanna was taking.
Towards
Anyways.
people that I assume, based on your statements, you would also find morally objectionable.
Yeah. So she was telling people that you're saying you shouldn't tell people what to do, and Susanna was saying you shouldn't tell people in Syria not to celebrate. So what the hell? Okay. Anyways. Oh, by the way,
She's
we have
like,
to remember
no, how
to.
dare you tell
Yeah.
them that they can't tell people what to do? How
Yeah.
about that?
Well, then in that case, we could tell Carl. Well, then how
Yeah,
dare you tell Susanna not to? It's
it's
just
you.
like a circular. Okay,
Oh my
okay. Wait,
god.
we have to look at the comments that D picked for us. I do you want to highlight some of
Yeah,
the
this
comments?
person responded. Yeah, basically, she admit that she was lying. I mean, we knew that she was lying. This is not new, but her taking to the stand and making more statements about it on the stand is what's new. I mean, absolutely speechless. That poor man. I think about his son.
Right.
I think about his wife. Rita Panahi was oh, okay, so she was just tweeting about the facts of the case. Okay, scroll down.
Yes, the comment. By the way, Rita is great.
Saying this is barbaric, not just the child's lies, but the belief murder is a remedy. Facts.
Yep. Facts.
This person responded, I'm horrified. The father of this lying little cow is a monster. He didn't even bother to call the school to find out what's going on. I hope he rots in jail. Well, the defense of the father is they're like, oh, well, we didn't want this. We were just asking for administrative action against him. That's why we went to the police to file a complaint. Sure.
I
had 9 phone calls with the jihadist murderer. Okay, sure.
I know people will find this ridiculous, but I need to say this. What the fuck do you have against cows? Okay, cows are amazing. How is that an insult? Okay, so there's that. Stop the cow phobia. Like, why are animals an insult? Animals are great. Anyways, so this one.
Well, this person just said, "Dear God, they live among us." I'm not exactly entirely sure what they mean by that.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
People that will weaponize their status as a minority and religious class to be able to inflict and garner power on top of others. Sure, yeah, there's a lot of people like that live among us.
Sina in the live chat was saying, to be fair, so when I said the problem is Islam, Sina posted this, said, to be fair, Muslims in America are much more chill. There is something about some of these European Muslims, man. I don't know what went wrong there. Okay, Sina, the problem with European Muslims are Islam. If you see some Muslims either in Europe or in America being chill, that doesn't mean that the problem is not Islam. That means that they are being less Islamic. The more chill a Muslim is, that is not evidence that Islam can be chill. That's just evidence that some Muslim can be less Islamic. That many Muslims actually can be less Islamic. Okay, so this doesn't save Islam, these examples. Someone who got a super chat this by saying, I can't believe this from the religion of peace. So that's funny.
Completely unprecedented.
Yeah, what the hell? We've never seen this before.
Yes. Sorry, it's so grim. Sometimes you just need like dark humor to get through stuff where it's like, where did he ever come up with this idea?
Islam and violence? What the fuck?
Beheading?
Anyways,
shocking.
In Islam. Shocked. Anyways, do you want to read this one from Sam? Sam, by the way, is Iranian. He just came from the Persian. I was doing a live stream on the Persian channel, and he hopped over from there to here. So you want to read this one?
Darud. Merci, Sam. Kheli mamnoon for the super chat. Sam, thank you for the super chat saying, is it possible to ask the people of the world, do you have to experience it like the people of the Middle East in order to understand how dirty Islam is? Do you have to be? No. Do you probably get special insight or a personal chip on your shoulder, for lack of a better term? Maybe.
Sam is just trying to come here and tell you that he's more aware than the rest of you because he's in the Middle East, he's in Iran, and he truly understands how vile Islam is, and he's just telling you that I know more than the rest of you. That's what Sam said.
I mean, let's be fair. Like, I know white girls who were raised in extreme Salafist households in the middle of like suburban freaking Australia, right? Like, they're not from the Middle East and they definitely have experienced it. They definitely have that special insight.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.